If someone had told me that a simple family surprise would expose the biggest betrayal of my life, I would have laughed and called them ridiculous. After nearly 20 years of marriage, I believed I knew my wife better than anyone. I trusted her completely. I trusted the life we had built together, and most importantly, I trusted the promises we had made to our children. I was wrong. My name is Daniel Carter. I'm 48 years old, married for almost 2 decades, and the proud father of 2 incredible kids. Ethan is 17, tall, smart, and already far wiser than most people his age. Lily is 12, still sweet enough to believe her father can fix almost anything in the world. That Wednesday morning felt ordinary. Natalie had already been away for 3 days on a business trip in Seattle, with 4 more days remaining. The house felt quieter without her, but that wasn't unusual. Her consulting career often required travel, and we had learned to adapt over the years. While Lily pushed cereal around her bowl, a thought suddenly struck me. What if we surprise Mom this weekend? I asked. Lily's eyes instantly lit up. Really? Like actually show up there? I smiled. Exactly. Even Ethan looked up from his phone. That would actually be pretty cool. For a 17-year-old, that was basically an enthusiastic celebration. Within hours, I arranged everything. I took time off work, informed the school, booked flights, and planned every detail. The entire time, I imagined Natalie's reaction. Her eyes filling with tears. Her laughter. The happiness of seeing her family standing outside her hotel room. I called her that morning. Straight to voicemail. Not unusual. I sent a message. Miss you. The kids can't stop talking about you. Love you. No response. Strange, but not alarming. That evening, I tried again. Nothing. A tiny knot formed in my stomach. Still, I ignored it. Overthinking is dangerous when you've spent years trusting someone. As I tucked Lily into bed, she hugged her stuffed rabbit and smiled. Do you think Mom will cry when she sees us? Maybe, I said softly. It's going to be an amazing surprise. I had no idea those words would haunt me later. The next day, we boarded the plane to Seattle. Lily talked endlessly about all the stories she wanted to tell her mother. Ethan listened to music while staring out the window. I, however, couldn't stop checking my phone. Call after call. Voicemail. Text after text. Nothing. Dad, why do you keep checking your phone? Ethan finally asked. I forced a smile. Just making sure everything's okay. But deep down, something didn't feel right. Natalie wasn't perfect, but she was always present for our children. She never ignored them for this long. By the time we landed, my uneasiness had transformed into genuine concern. We rented a car and drove downtown toward the Grand Harbor Hotel where Natalie was staying. The city glowed beautifully at night, but I barely noticed any of it. Lily bounced excitedly in the back seat. Can we surprise Mom right away? That's the plan. At least, I thought it was. Inside the hotel, I asked the kids to wait near a group of sofas while I approached the front desk. The receptionist smiled politely. How can I help you? I'm checking in and trying to reach my wife, Natalie Carter. She typed for several seconds. Yes, Mrs. Carter is staying here. Relief washed over me. At least she was actually here. Can you call her room? She did. No answer. She tried again. Still nothing. I laughed awkwardly. She's probably busy. The receptionist processed my reservation before hesitating. Then she said something that instantly made my blood run cold. It appears Mrs. Carter checked in with a +1. The world around me seemed to slow down. A +1? She immediately looked uncomfortable. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have mentioned that. I forced a smile. Probably a colleague. But my heart already knew something was wrong. Natalie's company never required room sharing. Never. I returned to the children while my thoughts spiraled. Lily grabbed my hand. Did you find Mom? Not yet, sweetheart. As we stepped into the elevator, I felt something I couldn't explain. Fear. Not fear of losing my marriage. Not yet. Something worse. The terrifying feeling that my life was about to divide into two versions. The one before I opened her hotel door. And the one that would exist forever after. I stood outside Natalie's hotel room, staring at the door while my heart pounded so hard it almost hurt. Every instinct inside me was screaming that I already knew the truth. Still, a small part of me desperately hoped I was wrong. Then the door opened. Natalie stood there wearing a hotel bathrobe. Her hair was slightly messy, her face flushed, and her expression changed from surprise to panic within seconds. Daniel, what are you doing here? As she whispered urgently, stepping into the hallway and pulling the door nearly shut behind her. For a moment, I couldn't even speak. We came to surprise you, I finally said. Her eyes widened. We? The kids are here. I pointed down the hallway. They've been excited all day. She immediately looked nervous. You should have called first. Those words hit me strangely. I did call. Multiple times. She looked away. I've been busy. I folded my arms. Who's inside your room, Natalie? She froze. It's not what you think. I almost laughed. It was amazing how quickly people said that when they got caught. Before she could say anything else, the door opened wider. A man stepped out. Tall, athletic, maybe in his late 30s. He was buttoning his shirt as he looked between us in confusion. Natalie, everything okay? The entire world suddenly became silent. I stared at him. Then at her. Then back at him. Who are you? I asked quietly. Natalie immediately stepped forward. Daniel, please. I didn't look at her. I kept my eyes on him. Who are you? He hesitated. I'm Ryan. From the Denver branch. Then he said the sentence that shattered whatever remained of my marriage. I didn't know Natalie was married. My chest tightened. I slowly turned toward her. You told him you were single? Natalie couldn't even look at me. Daniel, please don't do this here. The man immediately raised his hands. Look, I honestly didn't know. She never mentioned a husband or children. Without waiting for a response, he grabbed his jacket and quickly disappeared down the hallway. Now it was only us. Two strangers standing where a married couple should have been. 17 years, Natalie. I spoke quietly. 17 years. Tears filled her eyes. It isn't what it looks like. I stared at her in disbelief. You're standing in a hotel room wearing a bathrobe with another man, and somehow this isn't what it looks like? She looked embarrassed for a second. Then defensive. It was a mistake. A mistake? I almost laughed. Booking a room is a choice. Lying is a choice. Meeting another man is a choice. She shook her head. You don't understand. No. Explain it to me. She stayed silent. Our children flew across the country to surprise their mother, I said. And this is what they found. Her eyes filled with guilt. Please. Give me 5 minutes. Let me get dressed. I nodded slowly. Then what? She hesitated. Then we'll talk. I looked directly into her eyes. How long has this been happening? This was only once. The answer came too quickly. Too rehearsed. Too practiced. I didn't believe her for a second. Without another word, I turned around and walked back toward our room. Every step felt heavier than the last. I stood outside our door for several seconds before forcing myself inside. Lily immediately jumped off the bed. Did you find Mom? I smiled. Or at least, I tried to. Yes. Is she happy? She's coming to see us in a few minutes. Lily squealed with excitement. But Ethan wasn't smiling. He was studying my face carefully. What happened? He asked. Nothing. He didn't believe me. Neither would I have. Lily kept talking about dinner and sightseeing while I sat there wondering how I was supposed to protect my children from a truth that would eventually destroy them. 10 minutes later, someone knocked. Natalie stood outside looking completely different. Hair fixed. Professional clothes. Perfect makeup. As if she hadn't destroyed our lives 15 minutes earlier. Lily ran into her arms immediately. Mommy. Natalie hugged her tightly. My sweet girl. Then she looked at Ethan. Hi, sweetheart. He simply nodded. For the first time, the room felt uncomfortable. Fake. Everyone pretending. Everyone except Ethan. He was already beginning to see the cracks. And I suddenly realized something terrifying. The hotel room wasn't the end of this story. It was only the beginning. Because I still didn't know how many lies were waiting for me. The cold night air from the harbor should have been relaxing. Instead, it felt heavy. Lily ran ahead of us, pointing excitedly at every boat she saw, completely unaware that her world was hanging by a thread. Then Ethan asked the question. Dad, is Mom cheating on us? I nearly stopped walking. Not because I was shocked. Because I realized my son was no longer a child. I looked at him. His expression was serious, calm, almost too mature for 17. What makes you think that? I asked. He shoved his hands into his pockets. The way you're acting. The way Mom acted. And when you came back from her room, you looked like someone died. I stayed quiet. Dad, he said softly, just tell me the truth. Part of me wanted to protect him. Part of me knew he already knew. So I took a deep breath. Yes. He nodded once. No surprise. No anger. Just sadness. I figured. Those 2 words broke my heart. You knew? He shrugged. Not exactly. But she's been different for months. I stared at him. Different how? Always on her phone. Working late. More business trips. Smiling at messages she never shared. A wave of guilt washed over me. Had everyone seen this except me? I guess you didn't want to believe it, Ethan said quietly. He wasn't blaming me. That somehow made it hurt more. Ahead of us, Lily called out happily. Dad! Ethan! This boat has a helicopter on it. I smiled. Coming, sweetheart. We walked over, and I lifted her onto my shoulders. She giggled immediately. It's huge. It is. She laughed while pointing at the lights reflecting off the water. For a moment, I wished time would stop. I wished she could stay innocent forever. Because once the truth arrived, nothing would ever be the same. As we continued walking, Ethan moved closer. What happens now? He asked. I sighed. I don't know. Are you getting divorced? The word hit harder than I expected. I honestly don't know. He nodded. Then he said something that stunned me. If she loved us, she wouldn't have done this. I swallowed. It's complicated. No, he said calmly. It's really not. I couldn't argue. Because he was right. Cheating wasn't an accident. It was a decision. A series of decisions. And every single one of them had led us here. Eventually, we returned to the hotel. Lily was half asleep on my shoulder. Ethan walked beside me quietly. The elevator doors opened, and there she was. Natalie. Standing outside our room. Her arms were crossed. Where have you been? She asked. I've been calling. We went to the harbor. She frowned. I was worried. Ethan brushed past her without saying a word. She noticed immediately. What's wrong with him? I answered honestly. He knows. Her face lost all color. You told him? He asked. You should have talked to me first. I stared at her. You lost the right to make that request. She took a step back. Daniel. No. I kept my voice low. Lily is exhausted. This isn't the time. We entered the room. Lily changed into her pajamas and climbed into bed. Natalie sat beside her. Good night, sweetheart. Lily smiled. Are we spending all day together tomorrow? Natalie's smile faded for a second. Of course. The lie sat heavily in the room. Soon, Lily fell asleep. Natalie motioned for me to step outside. We stood alone in the hallway. She looked exhausted now. No makeup could hide that. No professional smile could erase reality. Can we talk privately? She asked. I nodded. We walked toward her room. The same room. The same room that now represented 17 years collapsing in a single evening. As she opened the door, I suddenly realized something. I didn't know this woman anymore. I knew the mother of my children. I knew my college sweetheart. I knew my wife. But this version of Natalie. She was a stranger. And strangers often hide far more than a single secret. Because deep down, I no longer believed this was her first betrayal. Natalie's hotel room felt different now. Not because anything inside had changed, but because I had. Just hours earlier, I was a husband arriving with flowers in his heart and a surprise for his wife. Now, I was a man standing in the ruins of his marriage, searching for answers I wasn't sure I wanted to hear. She sat at the edge of the bed while I remained near the door. I had no desire to sit there. No desire to make myself comfortable in a place that suddenly felt contaminated by betrayal. I looked directly at her. Tell me the truth. How long has this been going on? She lowered her head immediately. It wasn't serious. I shook my head. That's not an answer. She took a breath. A few months. The words hit harder than I expected. Months. Not days. Not one impulsive decision. Months. So this wasn't a mistake. It started as friendship. I laughed bitterly. People always say that. She looked up. We met at a conference in Denver. I folded my arms. And then? We kept talking. Every day. She hesitated. Most days. I nodded slowly. Texts? Yes. Calls? Yes. Video chats? She didn't answer. She didn't have to. The silence said enough. I looked away for a moment. My chest felt heavy. Months. Months of lying. Months of pretending. Months of kissing our children goodbye while secretly living another life. How many times? I asked. She swallowed. 3. The number made my stomach turn. 3 times. She nodded. I'm sorry. I stared at her. I'm trying to understand something. She looked up hopefully. When exactly were you planning to stop? She froze. I don't know. After a 4th time? Silence. After 10 times? More silence. Or were you planning to leave us eventually? Tears rolled down her face. No. Then what? She finally broke. I felt invisible. I stood there quietly. I know that's selfish. She wiped her eyes. I wasn't thinking clearly. You weren't thinking about us at all. She nodded. I know. I took a deep breath. Our daughter still thinks you hang the moon. That sentence shattered her. She covered her face. Our son already knows the truth. She began crying harder. You didn't just betray me. I spoke calmly. You betrayed them. She whispered, I know. For a moment, nobody spoke. 20 years of memories floated through my head. College dates. Our first apartment. The day Ethan was born. Lily's first steps. Family vacations. Christmas mornings. Birthdays. Anniversaries. All of it suddenly felt fragile. Like a glass sculpture that had finally fallen from a shelf. She looked up. Can we fix this? The question stunned me. Not because she asked it. Because I didn't know the answer anymore. Hours ago, I would have said yes without hesitation. Now, I didn't know. Trust is strange, I said quietly. It takes years to build and only minutes to destroy. She nodded. I'll do anything. I believed she meant it. The problem was, sometimes regret arrives too late. I walked toward the door. I'm taking the kids home tomorrow. She immediately stood. Please don't. They need stability. I need my family. I looked at her. You had your family. The room fell silent again. She started crying. Real crying this time. No excuses. No defensiveness. Just consequences. And for the first time all day, I saw genuine fear in her eyes. Not fear of losing me. Fear of losing everything. Because affairs don't only destroy marriages. They destroy identities. Dreams. Homes. Children's innocence. Entire futures. I reached for the door handle. What are you going to tell Lily? She asked. I paused. I don't know yet. Then I looked back at her one final time. But unlike you, I won't lie to her. I walked out. And as I headed back toward our room, I realized something terrifying. The hardest part wasn't going to be ending my marriage. The hardest part would be watching my children slowly realize their family would never be the same again. Because some betrayals don't end when they're discovered. That's when the real damage begins. Morning arrived far too quickly. I hadn't slept at all. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the same image. Natalie standing in that hotel doorway. The look on her face. The panic. The fear. The realization that she had finally been caught. I sat near the window while the city slowly came alive outside. Ethan was already awake, scrolling through his phone, while Lily remained asleep under her blanket, hugging her stuffed rabbit. For a few minutes, everything looked peaceful. Too peaceful. Almost normal. But our lives were no longer normal. A soft knock interrupted my thoughts. Natalie entered quietly. She looked exhausted. The confidence she usually carried was gone. Dark circles sat beneath her eyes, and her face looked older somehow. She smiled at Lily. Good morning. Lily immediately sat up. Mommy. She ran into Natalie's arms without hesitation. Watching it hurt. Because children love without conditions. They don't understand betrayal. They don't understand broken promises. They simply love. Natalie hugged her tightly. I'm going to miss you. Lily frowned. Miss me? You're coming home in a few days. Natalie glanced at me. Then back at her. Yes, in a few days. The answer felt incomplete. Because even Natalie knew things would never be that simple again. We packed our bags quietly. Nobody talked much. Even Lily noticed the strange atmosphere. Why is everybody so quiet? I smiled gently. We're just tired, sweetheart. She accepted the answer. Children often do. For a while. Eventually, questions always come. At the airport, Natalie walked beside us in silence. She wanted to say something. I could see it. Apologize. Explain. Beg. But no words came out. We reached security. This was where we had to separate. Lily hugged her mother tightly. See you soon. Natalie's eyes immediately filled with tears. See you soon, baby. Then she looked at Ethan. He stood still for several seconds. She opened her arms. He walked forward slowly and gave her a very brief hug. Then he stepped back. She smiled sadly. I love you. Ethan looked directly at her. Then he said something that made her completely freeze. I love you too, Mom. He paused. But I don't understand why you didn't love us enough to stop. Silence. Absolute silence. Natalie's face immediately crumbled. She couldn't answer. Because there wasn't an answer. Ethan wasn't angry. He wasn't shouting. That somehow made his words even more painful. He simply spoke the truth. A truth she would probably carry for the rest of her life. Without another word, he turned around and walked towards security. I stayed behind for a moment. Natalie was crying openly now. I'm sorry. I nodded. I know. Please don't give up on us. I looked at her. There was a time those words would have shattered me. Now they simply hurt. Right now, my priority is our children. She nodded. Can I still call them tonight? Of course. She wiped her tears. I never wanted this. I took a breath. Nobody wakes up one day and destroys their family by accident. The words landed heavily. She lowered her head. I picked up our bags. Then I followed Ethan and Lily. During the flight home, Lily slept almost immediately. Ethan sat quietly beside me. Dad? Yeah. Are you okay? I smiled. I will be. He nodded. We'll be okay. The way he said it made me emotional. 17 years old. Yet somehow carrying himself like a grown man. I placed my hand on his shoulder. We will. When we landed, reality hit me all over again. This wasn't a nightmare. This was our new life. Soon we'd have difficult conversations. Difficult decisions. Difficult days. But one thing had already become clear. My children were stronger than I ever realized. And that strength was slowly becoming mine too. Still, there was one problem. Natalie wasn't ready to let go. Because later that same night, my phone would ring. And what she said during that call would change everything all over again. That evening, after we returned home, exhaustion settled over every corner of the house. Lily sat on the living room floor drawing pictures, while Ethan disappeared into his room to finish school assignments. Everything looked ordinary, but nothing felt ordinary anymore. Every object around me carried memories of a life that was already disappearing. Then my phone rang. Natalie's name appeared on the screen. I hesitated before answering. Her voice was shaky. Daniel, there's something else you need to know. My stomach tightened immediately. What does that mean? She took a deep breath. Ryan wasn't the only problem. I was planning to ask for a transfer to Denver. I sat down slowly. A transfer? She started crying. I was going to move there temporarily for work. I closed my eyes. Another lie. Another hidden plan. Another piece of our marriage I never knew existed. Were you planning to take the children with you? I asked. She quickly answered no. I hadn't decided anything yet. That answer somehow hurt more. She was making decisions that could change our entire family's future without ever talking to me. Natalie, do you understand how serious this is? She whispered, I do now. But that sentence arrived too late. The damage was already done. We spoke for nearly an hour. For the first time in days, she stopped defending herself. She stopped making excuses. Instead, she simply admitted every painful truth. She admitted she felt selfish. She admitted she enjoyed the attention. She admitted she kept believing she could end everything before anyone discovered it. Hearing those confessions didn't make me feel better. If anything, they made me sadder because they proved how ordinary betrayal could be. Sometimes families don't collapse because of one giant event. They collapse because of hundreds of small choices. After we hung up, Ethan walked downstairs. Was that Mom? He asked. I nodded. He sat beside me. Is she okay? The question surprised me. Even after everything, he still cared about her. She's struggling, I answered honestly. Ethan nodded. I don't hate her. I looked at him. You don't? He shook his head. No. I'm disappointed. That's different. His maturity amazed me. At 17, he understood emotions that many adults never learn to separate. The following days were difficult. Natalie called every evening to speak with Lily. She helped with homework, listened to stories about school, and pretended life was normal. Lily loved every second of it. Ethan remained polite but distant. He never ignored his mother, but he no longer chased her attention either. Something inside him had changed. Trust had been replaced by caution. I understood because the exact same thing had happened to me. One afternoon, Lily finally asked the question I had been dreading. Daddy, are you and Mommy still in love? My heart nearly stopped. I sat beside her and held her hand. We both love you very much. She frowned. That's not what I asked. Children can be brutally honest. I smiled sadly. Mommy and Daddy are trying to figure some things out. She looked down for a moment. Did somebody do something bad? I couldn't answer right away. Eventually, I simply said, adults make mistakes sometimes. That night, after everyone was asleep, I sat alone in the kitchen staring at old family photographs. Birthdays. Vacations. Smiles. Memories frozen in time. Then a message appeared on my phone from Natalie. It contained one sentence that immediately changed everything again. I need to tell Lily the truth before someone else does. My heart started racing because I knew that conversation would either begin healing our family or break our daughter's heart forever. I also knew there was no perfect way to tell a child that the people she trusted most had failed each other. No script could soften that reality. No amount of love could erase the confusion she would feel. For days, I had been protecting her innocence. Now time was running out. The truth was approaching whether we were ready or not, and once spoken aloud, there would be no turning back. I stared at the message again and realized tomorrow might become the hardest day our family had ever faced, until now. The next morning arrived with a strange sense of calm. The kind of calm that usually appears right before something difficult happens. Natalie arrived at the house around 10 o'clock. She looked nervous, almost hesitant to walk through her own front door. Lily ran toward her immediately. "Mommy!" Natalie hugged her tightly. Then Lily asked a simple question. "Are you and Daddy okay?" The room instantly fell silent. Natalie looked at me. I looked at her. There was no avoiding it anymore. The truth had finally arrived. Natalie knelt in front of Lily and gently held both of her hands. "Sweetheart, Mommy and Daddy need to tell you something." Lily's smile slowly disappeared. "Am I in trouble?" "No, baby," and Natalie said immediately. "Not at all." Lily looked between us. "Then what is it?" Natalie took a shaky breath. "Mommy made a very bad decision." Lily frowned. "What kind of decision?" Natalie's eyes filled with tears. "A decision that hurt Daddy and hurt our family." Lily looked confused. "Did you have a fight?" I sat beside them. "Something bigger than a fight, sweetheart." She stared at us for several seconds. Then she asked quietly, "Are you getting divorced?" The word felt enormous coming from a 12-year-old. Natalie immediately began crying. I gently squeezed Lily's hand. "We don't live together the same way anymore." Lily's eyes filled with tears. "But you're still my mom and dad?" I smiled. "Always." Natalie nodded repeatedly. "Forever." Lily looked down. For several moments, she said nothing. Then she whispered something that broke every heart in the room. "I liked us better before." Natalie covered her face and cried. I felt my own eyes burning. Because we all felt the same way. We all wanted the version of life that no longer existed. The next few weeks were difficult. Natalie moved into an apartment downtown. She visited often. She attended school events. She stayed involved. But things had changed. Trust doesn't magically reappear. It has to be rebuilt. And sometimes, even rebuilding isn't enough. Ethan slowly began speaking to her again. Not because he forgot, but because he chose peace over anger. One evening he told me something I would never forget. Holding onto hate only hurts us. I smiled. He was right. Pain eventually changes shape. At first, it feels unbearable. Then it becomes sadness. Eventually, it transforms into acceptance. Months later, Natalie and I sat together at our kitchen table. Between us rested divorce papers. She looked at them for a long time before finally speaking. "I never thought this would happen." "Neither did I." She looked at me. "Do you think you'll ever forgive me?" I sat quietly. Then answered honestly. "Maybe one day." She nodded. "I'll spend the rest of my life regretting this." I believed her. Because regret was written all over her face. She signed her name. Then I signed mine. Just like that, nearly 20 years officially came to an end. She stood up slowly. Before leaving, she looked around the house one final time. The house where we raised our children. The house where we celebrated birthdays. The house where we built a life together. Then she walked toward the door. Halfway there, She turned around. I'm sorry, Daniel. I smiled sadly. I know. Then she left. The door closed softly behind her. I stood there for a moment. And to my surprise, I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel revenge. I didn't even feel hatred. I felt peace. Because sometimes healing doesn't begin when someone apologizes. Healing begins when you finally accept that the life you imagined is over. That acceptance gives you permission to build a new one. Later that evening, Ethan sat beside me while Lily watched television. Dad? Yeah. We're going to be okay, aren't we? I smiled. This time without forcing it. Yeah. I looked at both of them. We'll be more than okay. Different. Stronger. Wiser. And together. Because betrayal may break a marriage. But it doesn't have to destroy a family. Sometimes, the hardest endings become the beginning of your strongest chapter.